Hey there, good people, it's the Crippled Critic, and this week I want to talk about the new game, Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. Hellblade is an action hack-and-slash game with psychological horror elements. It's about a Viking woman named Senua who goes on a journey to hell in order to save the soul of her dead boyfriend. It's probably obvious that this game is steeped in Norse mythology. Hellblade's story tackles mental illness, and it uses trippy visuals in order to keep you guessing what's real and what isn't within the game world. Hellblade was developed and published by NinjaTheory and was recently released this month on PlayStation 4 and PC. If you're not familiar with NinjaTheory, they're a game studio in England who are known for making severely underrated games with great stories and impressive motion capture. They've even worked with Andy Serkis for some of their older games.
We're working with Andy Serkis, who you may know as Gollum from Lord of the Rings or Kong from King Kong. He doesn't only play one of the characters in the game, King Bohan, he's also our dramatic director.
The interesting thing about motion capture is how liberating it is for actors, because you can play anything. You're not restricted to your own physicality, your own face. You are allowed, using this medium, to go anywhere.
And the motion capture in Hellblade is just as great this time around. There were some scenes in the game where I legitimately didn't know whether certain characters were animated using mocap or if they just overlaid footage of real actors. So with Hellblade, lead director Tameem, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that last name. Tameem wanted Hellblade to be an experience that was about a deep character in a disturbing world with brutal combat. Also, he and the development team put a lot of effort into making sure Senua's descent into madness was as realistic as possible. So they worked closely with leading neuroscientists and those who were diagnosed with mental illness in order to properly capture the experience of psychosis and its effects on the human mind. So Senua constantly hears several voices in cutscenes and even in gameplay. I could go into more detail about how much love and care was put into this game, but that would take hours, and plus, the development team already has some convenient dev diary videos on their channel, and they explain it a lot better than I could, so check them out. I'll put a link to that in the description below. In short, NinjaTheory is an awesome studio that makes games that I think go surprisingly unnoticed for the most part. This includes a game called Heavenly Sword, which is one of my favorite games of all time and will most definitely be on my top 10 underrated games list, so look forward to that video in the future. I've even heard from the development team that Hellblade is a spiritual successor to Heavenly Sword, which is pretty cool. Anyway, I've been looking forward to Hellblade for a few years now, and it was well worth the wait. Alright, on to the control options in Hellblade. I'm happy to say that Hellblade has customizable controls, at least on the PlayStation 4 version that I'm reviewing. The customized options are even conveniently put into two categories, general controls and combat controls. The combat controls consist of all the symbol buttons, and they are dodge, block, heavy attack, light attack, and melee attack, and they're all required at some point in the game. Although I learned that I didn't have to block too often, as long as I dodged enough. You do have to alternate between pressing a lot of buttons during combat, so having the option to customize these controls was really helpful. Technically, Hellblade's controls aren't fully customizable though, because button for interact, which is X, and the button for focus, which is R2, can't be changed no matter what. By the way, focus is a button that's used to zoom in the camera on objects, and later in the game it also becomes an ability that lets you expose enemies' weak points and slows down time for a few brief moments. I guess I kind of understand the interact button being locked just because it could cause problems in other menus, but I don't understand why R2 couldn't be changed. I think that would have been nice. Still, every other button in Hellblade can be customized, including run, which you also have the option to turn toggle on for run, which makes it so you don't have to hold the button down. You move Senua with the left control stick and aim the camera with the right. The camera doesn't really follow Senua as you move, and I think that would have been nice personally. But during combat, the camera does automatically lock on to the nearest enemy, so that does help. There are 3 difficulty modes in Hellblade: easy, normal, and hard. Technically there's a 4th one called auto. I don't really know how it works though. Maybe it automatically chooses the difficulty based on your performance, but I'm not sure. For disabled gamers with fine motor skill impairments, I highly recommend playing Hellblade on easy mode, because like I said before, the combat is brutal. You'll be fighting waves of enemies and pressing buttons in quick succession. Now I personally had a nice system down where I did a combination of dodge, light attack, and heavy attack, and it worked pretty well. Where I think disabled gamers would find motor skill impairments will have the most trouble is when there's 2 or more enemies on screen at once. They can sneak up behind you and things can become chaotic very quickly. Using the focus ability does help make things a little more manageable, but it's not always available. Also, something kind of important to know is that Senua is cursed with something called the Dark Rot, and the rot starts on her arm and grows the more you die. The game warns that if the rot gets too high and reaches Senua's head, then you have to start all the way over from the beginning, basically resulting in a permadeath. This succeeded in raising my stress level and gave me incentive not to die that often. Checkpoints are plentiful in the game, so when you do die, you won't have to go too far back. The weird thing, though, is I really can't find anywhere online that it says that the permadeath is a real thing that happens if you die too often. I know that I died at least 20 times, and I didn't have to go from the beginning. That's what's brilliant about Hellblade. The game is constantly screwing with your mind.
A vision of what's to come.
Hellblade isn't just combat, though. About 50% of the game, I think, is puzzles. Sadly, the puzzles are the weakest thing in the game. Don't get me wrong, some of the puzzles in the game, like the ones that use illusions and let you open portals to look at different perspectives in order to solve the puzzle, those are pretty neat. But most of the puzzles in the game amount to just look for the strange rune and open the gate. They're okay at first, but after about 10 of them, it gets old fast. I would say the majority of the puzzles are pretty easy to do physically, except for near the end of the game when they start having puzzles be timed, which can be pretty annoying. Still, I think most disabled gamers who find motor skill impairments should be able to get through the gameplay. What Hellblade lacks in puzzles, it definitely makes up for with atmosphere. Man, they kill it with the atmosphere. In particular, the sound design in Hellblade is amazing. There's a creepy tone throughout, and the many voices that Senua hears throughout her journey is really unsettling. Not all of the voices you hear are supportive or helpful. In fact, during some combat scenes, listening to what the voices tell you could get you killed. A little annoying from a gameplay perspective, but an awesome idea that keeps you confused and scared when you're playing. There are subtitles you can turn on in Hellblade, but I have to admit they're not always consistent, especially when it comes to the many voices you hear. That's why I have to say that for deaf players and gamers with hearing impairments, you just won't get the same experience. It kind of comes with the territory with horror games, but sound is just too important in Hellblade. That being said, as far as I can tell, deaf players should be able to at least know when the voices are speaking. It just might not be word for word accurate. For those who want it, in the options menu there is a way to lower and raise the sound levels for the music, voices, and effects. Content-wise and visually speaking, the game is very dark. There's even a level later on in the game that puts you in complete darkness in order to make you rely more on sound in order to finish the level. So I would recommend for disabled gamers with visual impairments to turn up the brightness in the options menu. Now I would have said that colorblind players shouldn't have too much trouble because Hellblade rarely puts importance on color, all except for one key puzzle near the end of the game. Without spoiling too much, I'll just say that it involves you running away from an unknown enemy that's glowing an orangish red, and the only way to escape is to follow an entity that glows blue. Now I think it's entirely possible for colorblind players to solve this puzzle using contextual clues, but I just think it's important to mention. The story is really intense. You can probably already tell that I enjoy dark and disturbing stories, and Hellblade is no exception. This is a game that's got self-mutilation, childhood trauma, and lots of death. So yeah, fun. Senua herself is a really badass Viking woman, but she's insane, and the game doesn't make light of this. The game does a really good job of helping you understand how she feels. So Hellblade was a hell of a game. To me, the combat was kind of challenging, but really fun. The presentation was great, and the story was powerful. I think gamers with fine motor skill impairments should be okay as long as they use the customizable controls. but I don't think deaf players will be able to experience everything Hellblade has to offer. I think it takes about 20 or 25 hours to beat, which to me is perfect. I like that length for a game. It took me about a week and a half to finish, and I never felt like I had to push myself to complete any annoying side quests or busy work. Hellblade did not disappoint. It was awesome. I highly recommend it. Play it. Alright guys, what do you think of Hellblade? Was it cool? Did you think the puzzles were kind of cheap? Have you ever played any of the other NinjaTheory games? Let me know in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching, and I will see you later.